Welcome to the realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Enjoy listening. Charles Rivers, a man whose charisma and good looks could light up any room, was not your ordinary scientist. A renowned astrophysicist, he had always been the center of attention wherever he went. Yet, tonight, he had a different plan, a bold and unconventional one. Charles had decided to test his charm on extraterrestrial women. His first move? Call his best friend and fellow astrophysicist, Daniel Howard. Daniel, known for his extensive connections with alien cultures and women, was the perfect ally. As soon as Daniel answered, Charles wasted no time getting to the point. Daniel, you and me, pick an alien woman, and let's have a wild night. What do you say? Daniel chuckled, his enthusiasm evident. Finally, Charles, I knew this day would come. Give me until tomorrow, and I'll have everything arranged. You're going to love it. With the conversation over, Charles headed to his bathroom to prepare. His meticulous grooming ritual was second nature. He shaved, applied creams, and ensured every detail of his appearance was perfect. Yet, as he looked in the mirror, doubts crept into his mind. What was so different about alien women? He prided himself on his ability to connect with women, but this was uncharted territory. Later that evening, unable to quiet his thoughts, Charles called Daniel again. I've been thinking, he began. What exactly sets alien women apart from humans? I need to know what I'm getting into. Daniel, ever the expert on interstellar cultures, replied with calm authority. Charles, it's not as different as you think, but there are some nuances. Alien cultures have unique norms and sensitivities. Some dislike physical contact at first, while others place immense value on gestures and expressions. Many prioritize energy-based communication over verbal interactions. The key is empathy and intelligence, not just looks. Let your brain shine as much as your face. Charles, reassured by Daniel's advice, Charles went to bed feeling more confident. Tomorrow promised an experience unlike any other, and he was determined to rise to the occasion. The next morning, Daniel called. Charles, we're all set. Valora, the woman I've chosen, is perfect. We'll meet at your place tonight at 10. Just remember to be respectful and let your intellect do the talking. Charles confirmed eagerly and spent the day cleaning his home and mentally preparing himself. By the time the clock struck 10, he was ready. When the doorbell rang, Charles opened the door with a polished smile. Daniel, Valora, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. Please come in. Though Charles believed his charm was in full swing, Daniel nudged him discreetly as they entered, a subtle reminder to tone down the overly rehearsed demeanor. The three of them settled on the couch, engaging in small talk. As the conversation progressed, Charles attempted to steer it, eager to showcase his charisma. However, his confidence sometimes worked against him. When Valora mentioned a tradition from her home planet, Charles, assuming he knew all there was to know, jumped in with a comment that turned out to be about a completely different species. The awkward silence that followed was brief, thanks to Daniel's skillful intervention. Undeterred, Charles tried again, this time making a bold comparison between Valora's energy-based communication methods and modern human dance. The analogy, though imaginative, missed the mark. Daniel shot him a warning glance, which Charles acknowledged with a sheepish grin before letting Valora take the conversational lead. Gradually, the atmosphere relaxed. Charles decided to shift gears by showcasing his home's advanced technology. Leading the discussion, he described his futuristic shower, a photon therapy device capable of temporarily altering skin tone through light wavelengths. Valora's eyes widened in astonishment. That's incredible. Does it really work? It's cutting-edge human technology, Charles explained proudly. Would you like to try it? Intrigued, Valora agreed. Charles eagerly prepared the device in his bathroom, giving Valora a brief tutorial before stepping out to let her experiment in privacy. Back in the living room, Daniel confronted Charles with a mix of amusement and frustration. Relax, Charles. You're trying too hard. Just be yourself and let things flow. Their heated discussion was interrupted by Valora's voice from the bathroom, her tone playful and inviting. "Why don't you join me?" Charles smirked, turning to Daniel with a triumphant expression. "I knew it. Thanks for the gift, my friend." Stripping down to a towel, Charles strode confidently to the bathroom. Inside, Valora stood with her back to him, bathed in the glow of the photon device. "Ready for some company?" he asked. But her response was unexpected. "Not you, Charles. I meant your friend, Daniel." Charles froze, his confidence shattered. "Wait, what? Are you serious?" Valora turned to face him, her expression unapologetic. "I said what I said." Embarrassed and deflated, Charles wrapped his towel more tightly around himself and trudged back to the living room, his pride in tatters. "This has to be some kind of joke," he muttered to Daniel, who appeared equally surprised. Daniel, shrugging nonchalantly, walked to the bathroom. Charles slumped onto the couch, his head in his hands as muffled laughter and voices filtered through the door. An hour later, Daniel and Valora emerged hand in hand but fully clothed. Valora turned to Charles, her expression thoughtful. "You're handsome and charismatic, Charles, but that alone isn't enough. Alien women don't respond to surface-level charm. We value authenticity and mutual understanding. Thank you for the evening. It was enlightening." Charles sat frozen on the couch as Valora's words hung in the air, their weight pressing on his chest. He nodded slightly, unable to summon a reply before Daniel and Valora stepped out the door. The quiet click of the latch seemed deafening in the now empty apartment. For several moments, Charles stared blankly at the space they had occupied. Her words echoed in his mind. "We value authenticity and mutual understanding." He replayed every interaction, every misstep of the night. His charm, his polished demeanor, his attempts to control the conversation. None of it had worked. With a sigh, he stood and wandered to the bathroom, intent on cleaning up the remnants of the evening. That's when he saw it, Valora's note on the counter. "If you've learned your lesson, call me tomorrow. I'd like to try the shower again, with you this time." "Valora." Charles smirked, his confidence flickering to life. He picked up the note, reading it several times. "If I've learned my lesson," he muttered to himself. He poured himself a glass of water and sat back on the couch. Despite the sting of the night's events, a spark of curiosity ignited within him. Valora's words, though pointed, carried a tone of invitation. The following morning, Charles woke with a renewed determination. If authenticity and understanding were what Valora sought, then that's what he'd aim for. He spent the morning researching her species, Thalarians, and their cultural norms. Thalarians valued energy-based communication and shared experiences over verbal exchanges, something Charles had failed to consider during their initial meeting. By the afternoon, Charles had a plan. He picked up his phone and dialed the number on Valora's note. It rang twice before her melodic voice answered. "Hello." "Valora," he began, his tone steady but sincere. "This is Charles. I wanted to apologize for last night. I approached our meeting all wrong." There was a brief silence before she replied. "You're calling to apologize? That's unexpected." "I mean it," Charles continued. "I spent so much time trying to impress you that I forgot to actually connect with you. I've been reading about your culture, and I'd like another chance, on your terms this time." Valora chuckled softly. "You're full of surprises, Charles." "Very well. I'll give you another chance, but this time no polished speeches or over-the-top antics. Just you as you are." They arranged to meet later that evening, and Charles hung up, feeling both anxious and exhilarated. When Valora arrived, her demeanor was noticeably more relaxed. She greeted Charles with a small smile, her striking lavender eyes reflecting curiosity. Charles had prepared a quiet, comfortable atmosphere. Candles illuminated the room, their soft glow reminiscent of the Thalarian energy-based rituals he'd read about. He'd also set up a selection of ambient music, carefully chosen to match her species' preferences for harmonic tones. Valora looked around, her eyebrows raised. "You've been busy. I wanted to make sure I got it right this time," Charles admitted. As the evening unfolded, Charles focused on listening and observing rather than dominating the conversation. Valora spoke of her homeworld, a place of radiant crystalline structures that resonated with the energy of its inhabitants. Charles asked thoughtful questions, genuinely interested in her experiences. When she mentioned the Thalarian practice of resonance alignment, a meditative exercise that allowed individuals to sync their energies, Charles hesitated but then offered, "Would you teach me?" Valora's eyes lit up with surprise. "You're willing to try?" "I am," Charles said. "If it helps me understand you better, then yes." She guided him through the process, explaining how to focus on his breathing and let his mind tune into the subtle energy fields around him. At first, Charles felt nothing, but gradually a faint warmth spread through him. A sense of calm and connection took hold, unlike anything he had experienced before. When the exercise ended, Valora looked at him, her expression softer than it had been all evening. "You're learning, Charles?" "I'm trying," he replied honestly. As the night continued, the tension between them dissolved. They shared stories, laughter, and even moments of silence that felt meaningful rather than awkward. By the time Valora stood to leave, the dynamic between them had shifted entirely. At the door, she turned to face him. "Tonight was different. You were different. I think I might enjoy getting to know this version of Charles Rivers." He smiled, a genuine warmth in his expression. "I'd like that too." Valora paused, her gaze lingering on him for a moment longer. Then, with a nod, she stepped out into the night. Charles closed the door gently, leaning against it for a moment as he exhaled deeply. The evening had been a turning point, and he felt a strange but welcome mix of satisfaction and introspection. He walked back to the living room, where the soft glow of the candles still flickered. He glanced at the table, where Valora's untouched glass of Thalarian tea rested. Picking it up, he noted the faint warmth still lingering in the glass, a subtle reminder of her presence. He smiled to himself, placing it carefully in the sink as if preserving its significance. Charles wandered to the balcony, the cool night air brushing against his skin as he looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Valora's homeworld sparkled among the constellations. He thought about everything she had shared, her world, her culture, her way of connecting. For the first time, he felt a genuine curiosity about more than just surface-level charm. His thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of his communicator. He picked it up and saw a message from Daniel. "How did it go?" "Don't make me regret introducing you to." Charles chuckled, shaking his head before typing a reply. "It went differently, but I think I'm starting to get it. Thanks for the introduction, Daniel." "I owe you." He set the communicator down and took one last glance at the stars before heading to bed. Valora's parting words echoed in his mind, and for the first time in a long while, Charles felt like he was stepping into something real, not just a fleeting adventure, but the beginning of a journey he hadn't expected. And as he lay down, a faint smile lingered on his lips. For once, he wasn't thinking about impressing anyone. Instead, he was looking forward to discovering more about Valora, her world, and perhaps even himself.